There we are. That was some introduction. Sorry, I'm trying to get away from the lights there. So welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out to the agenda to be with us today in what is the third year that we've run a dedicated panel session for people in payments. We decided to launch People in Payments a few years ago, mainly because when we come to these events, and I don't know whether you sort of feel or find this, but when we come to the events, we talk a lot about product, we talk about partnership, innovation, maybe a little bit about go-to-market, but we very rarely put in time to talk about the talent capital required to execute on those initiatives successfully. And this morning, and through the last few weeks as I've been out in the field talking to folks, this sort of constant striving to find talent, the right talent for our organizations, for our operations, is a perennial challenge for folks. So over the last couple of years, we've been focusing on how can we begin to expand what we do with People for Payments. My name is Simon Stokes, and I'm Chief Commercial Officer with the Conexus Group, and we are a portfolio of world-class businesses that are focusing on the areas of recruitment, consultancy, training, and M&A advisory, and we do that within the payments, fintech, and also the iGaming sector. Over the last couple of years, the panel that we've been running has focused on the individual. So we've talked a little bit about how do we attract, retain, and develop talent within our organization. We've also talked a little bit about us personally, so the career journey that we're going on personally. How do I think about my shop window? How do I present myself in the very best way as a personality and a talent within the payments industry? So today, we're now turning towards team. How do I improve team performance? How do I think about the culture within my team? How do I improve team results? If you were in the plenary session this morning, you would have heard Dave Birch talk about the sector in the way that there's so much change. There is so much that is new. And as a people manager, as a company owner, as a company director, that's a huge challenge to face into, especially in light of what I said earlier about trying to identify talent and bring it into the organization. The companies that we work for are global, integrated, seamless communities that know no boundaries, no borders, they're 24/7, they're creative, they're organizationally and operationally cohesive. And that means that the employees that we have within our companies and teams operate in a different way day to day. They can set their own agendas day to day, week to week, and that can create a challenge when it comes to thinking about team. How do I build a winning culture? How do I think about balance and DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion in my business? How do I incent? How do I know that my team that's out there in the field is actually doing what I need them to do day to day? And so we're going to dig into some of those tricky and interesting questions from my learned panel here, which they will introduce themselves in a second. But before we get to that point, just two things. We've got a couple of poll questions coming up, and I'd love you to sort of download Slido or take a picture of the QR code and answer those poll questions. They are completely anonymous, but they will help the richness of the conversation that we're having today. And then we will also have a Q&A session at the end. So if you've got any questions, please do write them down, and then we'll have some time at the end. But without further ado, I'd like to get the panel to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get into some of the questions and topics we're on today. So maybe if I could do ladies first. I know that's going to be complicated, but if I can start with Andrea, and then we'll just sort of go around that way. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is André Toucinho. I am Director of Studies, Perspective and Training of a French consulting company called Partelya Consulting. And I have also some activities at the EU level as Country Ambassador for France of European Women Payments Network and France representative of two national fintech associations in the south of Europe, AFI Spain and AFI Portugal.
Thank you. Robert.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Robert Kraal, and I'm the founder of one of the founders of Silverflow. And I've been in the payment segment for quite a number of years. Started my career at Bibit when it was very small. We sold that to Royal Bank of Scotland, and that's currently known as WorldPay. I've also spent quite a number of years as COO of Argen, and within Argen I'm also the founder of their acquiring and processing division. But today I'm here as a role founder of Silverflow.
Thank you, Lynsey.
Good afternoon, Lynsey Verrillo. I'm lead one of the European Visa client-facing teams. My team is supporting what we call merchant enablers, which includes payment gateways, orchestration platforms, ISVs, and PayFacs. And I also own the small business strategy and agenda for Visa in Europe on the seller side. Started my career in consulting and have been in payments now for 6 years at Visa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Piotr Kozlowski. I'm a payment manager at G2A.com. I'm also a consultant in the payments industry for a couple of years, and advising companies on the payment flow, payment settlements, payment setup in general, especially focusing on e-commerce solutions.
Thank you, André.
Hi, my name is André. I'm head of payments at Volkswagen Group Charging. We are in charge of everything which is e-mobility for the volume brands Skoda, Volkswagen, Cupra, Seat, plus Audi, and our own brand. And we are taking care of the European area for this one.
Thank you. So huge experience we've got on the panel here, and I'm really keen to get stuck in. So I'm going to start with a question here. When we think about building a winning team, when you think about the teams that you have built through your careers, what are the areas people who manage teams need to be thinking about, should be thinking about right now, especially in light of a couple of things: diversity, difficult to retain talent, difficult to attract talent, and so on. And I'm going to start maybe with, Robert, if that's all right, start with yourself. Could you answer that question, then we'll move around the panel and get some other views?
Yeah, I think that, Silverflow is quite a young company, so we've existed for 5 years, but we have global ambitions. So from day one, we've essentially said from a cultural point of view, we want to have a lot of different nationalities in the team. So we're at 70 people today, and I think we have like over 30 different nationalities, which creates a very international atmosphere, of course. So the main language is English, but we have a lot of languages covered across the globe, which helps in our commercial adventures in those markets. And the other thing, what we're looking for, what we try to push, is of course diversity, the man-women balance. It is challenging sometimes because we have a lot of engineers in our team, and there are simply more men at this moment studying engineering than women. But we try to have a very equal balance. So our team leads, they are mixed women and men. We try to recruit the female engineers as much as possible, but it still remains a complex thing. But that builds a specific culture. So the combination of having a lot of different nationalities and also a good mix of men versus women, that is sort of what I think the Silverflow culture is.
Yeah. And Lynsey, you're in a huge organisation, so how do you think about that question?
Well, I think it's really clear that the more diverse a team, then the broader the experience, the skills, the perspectives that brings. So that's obviously optimal. And it's not just diversity around the traditional characteristics like age, ethnicity, gender, but also I think background and skills and experience. So in the team that I lead, we have a breadth of responsibilities. So we really do look to have folks that come from a number of different areas, different teams. We and looking at the mix of the individuals as well, trying to have a broad range of age, gender, etc. And I think the challenge is how we achieve that. So that's the aspiration. But to Robert's point, it can be very difficult. I mean, at Visa, there's a number of initiatives that are really focused on looking to increase the pool of talent and to ensure that it's a positive place to grow a career. So we have targets around keeping a gender balance for the business. I think we're 42% women globally. In Europe, I think we're doing better, about 50%. But at an event last week for International Women's Day, our European CEO noted that her leadership team is 75% female. So I think it's a good indicator of a commitment to just giving access. And we also really focus on bringing in young talent apprenticeship program, for example. So quite a lot of different levers to pull.
Yeah, thank you. Piotr.
Well, from my perspective, the good performing team has to be focused on goals, right? And on those goals, also relating to the general atmosphere in the company, the culture that exists in the company is very important, and especially those payments teams that I had experience with, which usually perform many cross-functional duties and tasks. They also have those goals very, very, so to speak, not solid, meaning that they change, they spread over the organizations, involve different processes, different perspectives, different ideas for solving, which also means that the both teams and the managers of those teams have to be very elastic and acceptable towards the performance of the team. So that would be point number one. And from the second point, I would say that control, and in the sense that the checking how the performance in time looks like, and how is it tracked, is also very crucial and important. Meaning that you have to follow being a manager, you have to follow the team rather than the opposite. Meaning that you have to be a sort of a person who guides, sets the boundaries of performance and the boundaries of what has to be done, leaving a bit of creativity and the space for the team, for the team to be, to sort of find its own way in achieving those goals that are set. And combination of all those factors, in my opinion, would make up the team a very strong performer in general.
Thank you. André.
Diversity is very important. When I see our company, we are 350 people and we have 35 different nationalities. Doesn't count if man, woman, or diverse. To find the right people for your team, I think everything starts with the description, the job opportunity you described. What are you looking for? And that's a very important point in our company, that we describe the job opportunities as detailed as we can. And if you then find people, you have to check, is there a fit to the team? Is this the guy I'm looking for to grow in my team or to grow the team? Is it a benefit to my team? I think that's most important things, but everything starts with the job description, where you offer different things and something like that. So,
thank you. That's good. André.
I think that diversity is a key trend in Europe of payments. We see a growing maturity about this topic in the diverse EU countries. So first of all, if we refer to gender equity, we see more and more associations in the diverse countries. Like for instance, in France, we have the association EWPN that I represent, but also another recent one, Les Femmes du Paiement, dedicated to women in retail. And in Spain, we see also a growing interest of a national fintech association about the gender equity and the place of women in the innovation linked with finance. And another example is the case of Italy, where we have an association called SheTech that promotes the role of women in the innovation linked with finance. In Portugal, there is also a growing maturity in the field of diversity of ages, with growing relations between national payment actors like SIPs and some schools and university to promote a culture of change about payments. But I think that it is important in the field of payments to consider diversity as a whole and not just in relation with gender equity and age, since we are in a more and more open market. So it is important to consider also geographical diversity and diversity of profiles, above all when we see the growing role of demand actors in the definition of a strategy in the field of payments. We see, for instance, the situation in France with a strong collaboration between banks and retailers, for instance, in the field of regulation with the SCA migration. So it is important to apply diversity as a whole and not just in relation with gender equity and age, I think. And if I refer to a report realized by EWPN and Banking Circle a few years ago, we can say that if diversity is not yet a strong reality in the field of payments in Europe. We already see some benefits. Companies that integrate diversity in their strategy have more creativity, they are more innovative, and we see also less turnover in these companies. So it is a real value-added aspect in the field of payments.
Fantastic. I want to try and get a slide moving on. Can you move on to the next slide? Is that okay? I wanted to just... That's not a good sign. End of slideshow. Is that right? Brilliant. Okay. I just wanted to put this slide up for a second. And sorry, panel, it's very difficult for you to see, but there's two bits that I want to focus on. So first of all, this is basically how managers spend their time. 54% on administrative coordination control, and only 7% if we can just don't allow or something, get rid of that strategically placed icon, which is basically 7% is the time that we spend with the people in our team, helping develop them, train them, coach them, and so on. And so that's a really poor statistic when we think about 54% on admin, 7% on team. We've got to fix that, and we've got to fix it really quickly. AI has a part to play in that. AI in team management has a role, and I'll come on to that in a second. I'm just going to ask two panelists, actually. I'm going to go to Lynsey first, just to pick on her. But what can we do to shift that? And I know it's an average, and many managers will not have the 54 and 7, but how do we change that? What can we do to spend more time with the people in our team, whether they're remote or in person?
I think for us, to be honest, it's a prioritization exercise, right? I think when we are so driven with the targets, sometimes you can't, you forget that you need to carve out time and be very deliberate around finding that time. So planning team days, doing offsites, and getting out to the office, I find really helps as well. So I did it with my team last week. We went to a client office, we took over a meeting room. So we were just locked in a room together for 6 hours, and we spent the first half just doing team building. So I think it really is just being very deliberate around finding time to invest in being with your team. And of course, more automation on the admin is what we really need to take that pain point away from us as leaders.
Yeah. Robert, you're talking about engineering. And sometimes those could be offshore or nearshore and so on, not necessarily in the community, the immediate community. How are you thinking about that particular metric?
Well, we try to get all our people as much to the office as possible. So we don't have that is not allowed to work from home, but we try to encourage them to come to the office. Because of course we're a bit younger company, so we have a lot of whiteboard sessions and discussion panels and stuff like that. And we do that by making it very fun at the office as well. So that's the part admin. Of course, when we're a little bit smaller than Visa, it takes a little bit less time. So we have people doing that, but we don't have AI tools for that. But we do spend a lot of time on actually making our workplace a fun place to work. And that doesn't mean that people don't work hard and they only have fun. But we make sure, for instance, that we take time to have lunch together.
Yeah.
And the Dutch lunch culture is like bread with cheese. But if you have like over 30 different nationalities, most of them, they don't eat bread with cheese for lunch. So we try to have like nice lunch moments and spend time together. And it's not just the engineers talking to the engineers, it's people really mixing up, and the salespeople talking to the engineers, and the finance people talking to the marketing people, etc. So we try to, besides those small things, also have indeed our offsites, and they can be fun, they can be sporty, they can be part of training, that we let them actually think about the future of the company. And what we also try to do is we have a very open or transparent company. So we have our daily stand-up still with the whole team, so with all the people. And it's not that everybody tells what they're going to do, but typically everybody attends that early in the morning. It's 15 minutes, and the team leads of each individual team, they sort of say what were the wins of yesterday and what will be the actions we're going to do today. And we're very transparent. Everybody knows sort of, we try to make sure that everybody is aware of what is happening in the whole organization. And that is how we try to create a culture where people feel involved, where people like to come to the office. And what you see is that they organize things themselves. So we have a running club, which is organized by the staff. We have a board games club, which is once every month organized by the staff. We have a movie club and a game night, stuff like that. And they like to actually spend their time together. So it's not that everybody shows up, but lots of people show up. And as a company, we facilitate, of course, the space, and we serve pizzas or whatever food they want to order. But this is what we try to do. So really put the fun in the work as well.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic, and I think in the context of when everybody's in the same office, that's maybe easier to do. But when you've got remote folks elsewhere, maybe you could do some online gaming or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think that they have their own events, so they have similar things when it comes to lunch, and we try to invite them to the headquarters as much as possible. So, of course, for our US staff, it's a little bit more challenging to come over quite often, but typically our people in the UK, they come quite often over to Amsterdam and vice versa as well.
Thank you. Right, I think we've got a poll question, and I think we're going to bring Slido up because we'd love you to take a look at this question and maybe give your views and thoughts. Can we get all good? There we are. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm a little bit more aware of my surroundings. Yeah, folks, if folks can just take a look at that, that would be absolutely fantastic. Maybe we'll get a few results in. Let's have a look. Can you see that, guys? Can you see the results over there?
Yeah.
Almost. No, I'm afraid not.
No.
No, okay. I will read them out to you.
Oh, we see them there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
I highly support that.
Brilliant. Right, good. Thank you very much. That's fun. Ooh. That's gone. Can we bring that back? Thank you very much. Okay, so really good results there. In terms of one area that would improve team performance within your company, you can see that. I mean, just talking a little bit to the results here. I think the investment in personal and team development for me is one that's sort of quite close to my heart, but it's one that companies do struggle with in doing that consistently. I think cross-functional team engagement and collaboration is also something that's really critical, but quite often is not necessarily done particularly well. But maybe, Andrea, can I turn to you just very quickly and ask this question? Looking at the results there, especially around sort of training and development and cross-functional collaboration. Anything to sort of share on that, especially as you were talking about sort of different European markets and how do companies operate across those different markets?
Yes, sure. One of the key aspects, I think, in the field of development of performance is to develop a more network approach. So to network within the company and between the company and the market. So to achieve this purpose, we have several think tanks in the European payments area, such as the Payments Association EU and some national associations like the French Association du Paiement. So I think it is a good way to develop knowledge and network between employees and the sector. And I think that the key word about this topic is knowledge. So it is important in the companies to promote knowledge such as workshops, studies, reports to foster individual skills and also the image and the reputation of the company in the sector.
Yeah, thank you. So another question to ask. We were talking about balance and diversity of teams, and that's really, really super important to get the best outcome and the best result. But how do we intentionally do that? Because that's a challenge. Do you go out and say to the recruitment company, we've got Payment Genes in the audience here. We love Payment Genes because they're based in Amsterdam, and we go and get to do lunch with them every so often around the table with all of the employees in the office. So I'm totally with you on that one, Robert. But how do we intentionally go out and find balance for our team? And Piotr, maybe I'll start with you on that one.
Well, it's a tough one, right? I mean, you can't, well, maybe you don't usually do openly say that this is an only, for example, Christian, let's say, position to be filled in, right? You have to balance what you are offering, and you especially focus on the skills and competences, right? When opening a position for the team. But there is obviously the whole area of balancing the team internally when you have already known skills and persons and people around the company that are critical or, for example, very important to performance of a particular process. Let's say that would be chargebacks, for example, right? Or settlements, which are pretty important and usually sit within the accountancy teams and financial. So, and what I mean is that balancing this internally, you would have to employ not only getting to know the skill set of the hard skills that are already there, but also the personality of the people, their interests, their general, so to speak, like view on how the company looks like, on how do they feel within the company, and balancing this is pretty important from the perspective of a manager who tries to sort of take what's best from all those areas and make the team to complete the set goals, yearly KPIs, whatever you call it, right? Yeah. And for that, the manager, him or herself, needs the 4 basic things, I think. The perceptiveness of what is, and awareness of who he is and what is going in the company. Second would be acceptance of ambiguity and uncertainty, that whenever there is an interaction within the team or with the process that is hard to execute from start to end and takes long, for example, there are some areas in which the employees will perform better or worse, and this ambiguity on the outcome of the performance should be taken into consideration by such a manager. And finally, and what I personally find the most important is the personal relationship between the team members and the manager, right? Yep. Which sets the basis and the foundation for the general culture creation in the company and the performance of the team itself.
Thank you. So, Lynsey, just very quickly, in the context of that question and this subject of unconscious bias, so how do I think about going through choosing who I'm going to have in the team, what I think about that balance and that mix, whether it's gender, age, ethnicity, other. Can you maybe share a few thoughts and observations in that area?
Yeah, I mean, I think about this a lot, actually, because I think it's been a challenge in recruitment for many years. And I think we've, in the recent years, started to educate ourselves more on unconscious bias. I've certainly gone on that journey. I've now got a lot more conscious bias, honestly, because I've taken that time. That's something that Visa's been doing, actually. It provides training for available to all staff around exactly that topic and related. So I think, one, it's informing yourself of what those biases may be, just to help to be more familiar and recognize it. Two, I think it's also ensuring that you're positioning your job descriptions as very open, and actually we can drive a lot of bias in the way that we write our job descriptions. We can go much more attractive to a certain population. This is often on a gender piece. So I think we can do more using the tools that are available to ensure that a job description is not sort of leaning towards one characteristic, and actually it does sound and look very open. But I really just think it's about education. Yeah, agreed. André, I want to turn to you on another question. So we heard this morning from MasterCard that trust is the new gold. And trust is it's a really important foundational aspect of building a high-performing team, building an accelerating team. How do you think, and André, I want to come to you with this question as well, just for the both of you. How do we build and ensure, as people leaders, that there is that strength of trust between us and the team, and also to the previous Slido slide, cross-functionally as well? How do we instill some of that?
It's a very good question. in our organization, we do this, we work cross-functionally, especially in the payment team. We are not dedicated to a product, we are cross-function. We report to the CFO, but we are cross-function over all products. So in that case, first of all, the trust is built by, as we are a remote company. So we have 3 offices in Munich, in Berlin, and Hamburg, but we are fully remotely, so it doesn't count where you work. And based on KPI, you have targets when you work for us. So if you don't reach the targets, if you don't reach the goal, we know something happened and we have to take care. And that's not a target which is related to 12 months, it's a target which is related on quarter time, something like that. So in that case, we give a very trustful opportunity to our colleagues and employees in our company that we say it doesn't count where you work as long as you work. So we have the targets, we have the goals, we have a lot of work to do, especially this year. We have to finish a lot of things, projects and something like that. And if we don't reach this, we have to take care that we have to change something. Is it the right team where you work, or should it be better to work in another team? So, for example, a colleague of mine, she was working for the product side, and she coming from the finance side. She was not really familiar. She don't feel well, but she get the trust to join our company. And then the product head is thinking about maybe she's in the wrong team, and then she is moving to the finance team, and now she is more than happy. She do a great work. She now left for maternity leave, but we all will miss her. But she will back in 6 months, where she also give us the trust. I don't take the 12 or 18 months. I'm back in 6 months, I promise. And because of finishing our project and something like that. And if you see colleagues with this opportunity, with this mindset, then I think we build a trustful company in that case, or the company built a good company. We also have an open space of communication in our Slack on Teams channels and something like that. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Yes, I think that trust is a key aspect, and I would like to highlight 3 ideas about this aspect. The first one is the necessity to develop interaction in the company. So to develop a way to work more based in networking within the companies linked with payments. So we are in a more and more open market, so it is important that the company linked with payment reflect this paradigm. Mm-hmm. The second key aspect, I think, is accessibility of the management. It is important that the management may be integrated in this open paradigm to apply this new way of work and to foster trust between employees and management. And the last aspect that I would like to highlight is the importance of the brand. So the company is not just a name, it is also some values. So I think that trust is also linked with the values promoted by the company.
Fantastic, thank you. Right, can we move on to the next slide? Is that okay? Wonderful. I just wanted to put this up very quickly. I don't know whether you guys can see it down there, but this is just one of the key drivers to remote working. And we're not going to talk around these points. I just wanted to put it up just more for information, but sort of remote working, cross-border, cross-region, better access to skills, the talent shortage in my market, talent attraction, and requests from employees to be able to work from home or work from a different market and other. What did worry me was the CO2 reduction and sustainability percentage, which seemed very, very unnaturally small. But anyway, I just wanted to put that up there more for context rather than to talk through. And you'll be delighted to know that we're now on to our final poll question. So I'd love you to just take a moment to just give us your thoughts and vote on this, because I do want to talk on these points a little bit as we begin to come into land on the panel. So take a moment, if you could, just to vote on these points. Well, I'm going to pick on one just while we're seeing the votes coming in. While that's happening, and I might go to you, Robert, if I may, and ask you the question. Ensuring the company vision, so the vision that's set by the executive, for want of a better term, can translate and transpose to team that may be somewhere quite remote within the organisation, and the individuals in that team is a challenge. And we've probably all worked in organisations where we've experienced a bit of that. How do you deal with that and ensure that flows naturally and is received well within Silverflow?
Well, I think that at the offsites that we do, but also at the monthly sort of recap of the last month that we have, that we always are stating where we are and where we want to be. And where we want to be is quite often a longer term vision, where do we want to be in a couple of years, so that everybody is aligned. But we also try to translate it obviously in more shorter term goals, as what are we going to do now, the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. And I think that reiteration of sharing your vision with the team is very important. And also that the people in the team see that we're actually making the right actions for getting that as well. So we shared our vision at a certain moment about us being, let's say, big in Europe and the US. But we got quite a number of customers from Asia at that moment. And the people in the team actually asked and say, okay, listen, but we had this vision to go after Europe and the US. So what are we doing in Asia now? Because it does cost a lot of additional work. It was not on our mission, not on our vision. We said, okay, this is going to be in a couple of years. So you're changing that. And there were actually a lot of questions in the team around, why did you make this strategic change? Well, the answer is that we also have to be opportunistic as an entrepreneurial young company. But it's good that people ask those questions and that we actually take the time to explain and say, okay, yes, this is indeed slightly different what we communicated before, but there are business reasons for still doing it. And that's why we made the decision to actually put effort and time of the different teams to have a little bit of shift of priorities in certain teams, but make sure that people, if they have those questions, why are you making changes, that there's a channel for them to ask the questions, and that you actually also, in a transparent, in an honest way, explain why you made those decisions. And I think people understand. So people don't understand it if you're not communicating it, but if you say, okay, listen, this is just the business case, and you explain the business case, people understand. And I think that is part of building that trust and keeping the team involved, I think.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. And Lynsey, let's go to the other pendulum swing to a large global organisation like yourselves. Having worked at Visa, sometimes you see the big message and then you try and transpose that down to the bit that you've got to go deliver and your team's got to go deliver. So, what are your thoughts on this?
I think there's probably two approaches that we've been taking that I think is making this work. One is the goal setting. We've always actually, I believe, cascaded goals. So the goals start with our CEO, they link to the vision and the targets for the organization, and they're cascaded down through leaders to each individual employee. So you should always be able to relate the goals that you have for the year ahead to the CEO's statement and vision. And that's very helpful, I think, for any individual in the organization to connect back to the bigger picture. And then the second part is recognition. So again, we've been investing in a lot more recognition tools and methods that link back to those same goals. So very visible recognition around the contributions that you make to those targets, and quite a breadth. So peer-to-peer recognition platform has been invested in, but there's also sort of global programs that are looking to recognize employees across the global organization. So a combination of that, I think, is really helping.
Thank you. So, André, I'm going to come back to you. So we've just got a couple more quick topics to talk on very briefly. So the first one is AI in team management, because it seems to be a theme for this conference. I don't know about you, but going back a couple of years, the big theme was BNPL, and then it was digital and crypto, and this year it seems to be AI. And it's interesting the new shiny thing, that we want to get our hands on. But I think that there's definitely something very important about AI in the workplace, and I'm sort of quite passionate about understanding where AI fits in terms of team and how we think about team management. And one area that I think is super interesting is how we use AI to support our decision making as leaders. That's not to replace our decision making, but just to sort of come up with some alternative points of view. Quite often it's have I got it right? I think I have, but how can I check that without having to sort of expose the fact that I want to go and talk to some other people about it? So I think AI definitely has a place. That 57% that we showed earlier on, I think it has a place there as well to help us with all of that administrative burden and tasks that we have to do as leaders. But André, just give us a minute. I come to you, Andrea, then Piotr, and then we'll close. But yeah, just give a few thoughts on that.
To be honest,
don't worry if you don't have a view.
I don't have a view at the moment. So I know our HR is working on something, especially if you need to scan a bright market of candidates, then AI will definitely help to find in the first place the right way, especially when you work with headhunters or agencies in that case. But to be honest, at the moment, I don't have any answer.
Maybe reframe. Anybody got a point of view on that? Don't worry if you haven't. It could just be too bleeding edge, but I wanted to bring it to the panel. But don't worry if you don't. No. Okay. That was a really bad question.
It's a very good question, but the answer is no, we're not using it.
I'm really looking forward what it will bring up.
Sorry?
I'm really looking forward what it will bring up, AI.
Yeah. No, fantastic.
But at the moment, I don't have any vision about that. So ask me next week, maybe.
Okay. Piotr.
Yeah, well, my personal experience is that it does help on a daily basis with me, obviously. I use it basically for aggregation of information. Those are not obviously related to specifically to the companies that I work with, rather to the general topic of, let's say, I recently used it for preparing a scope of duties for a PCI compliance officer, which was, you easily generate all the main areas of responsibility falling under the PCI DSS. They are more or less universal, right, across the board. I obviously took it. It wasn't exactly like for like that I distributed this internally, but I had to do some minor tweaks. But anyhow, it worked, right? It didn't took me 3 hours. It took me 15 minutes, right? In those terms, this is AI will definitely speed up some basic tasks, but also having a general view on this, and this is my personal point of view. I don't believe that I would like to be, for example, exchanged by AI, right? Meaning that
augmented but not exchanged. We can augment you, but
yes,
exchange you.
Hopefully to be better, right? Not for worse.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, and I don't believe that any of us here sitting here would like to be exchanged by AI just because it will perform our duties better than us, right?
Good point. Good point. Right. Okay. Final question. I'm the CEO of a company. I'm a manager of a function at a department. I look after teams dispersed around the globe. Any one of the above. What's one key point that you would say to the folks that are in the audience about how we manage our teams, how we manage our companies? What's something that they can take away from your experience? So maybe Piotr, we'll start with you.
Right, I'll relate to what actually was said by the CEO of G2A already. That behind all the technology and the many aspects of payments that we see, or even many aspects of the development in companies in general, we should focus on the human perspective. I mean, on the people who create those companies. And development of the human resources, development of the relationships mostly between people is what I would and will in my future career be focusing on, right? And this is from my perspective, each time and talking to other people, explaining, conversating, discussing, getting to know their perspective, adopting, denying some of them, etc., etc. This is the most crucial part that I would bring forward.
Lynsey.
I think from my own personal experience through my career and as a leader today, the one piece that has really benefited my growth and that I see the team grow is exposure. So I think working for a global organization, we're in a unique position to offer employees exposure to different geographies, different cultures, different client types, and every new experience I think is broadening the perspective and the confidence of that individual to really continue to push themselves into new environments. So I think when somebody's leading an organization like that, give every employee the chance to have as much exposure as possible.
Nicely said.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the first thing that I had was make sure that you keep communication lines open with all your staff. So keep them informed, make sure that if they have questions that there's an open door that they can ask you. But the other one is also involve them. So how we do that is when we are raising money, for instance, next funding round, I typically ask engineers to sit in and also be fully involved in that discussion, so they can introduce themselves, tell them what they do, but that they get sort of a different view on running a startup company. And we do that with a lot of different staff. In particular, some staff, they say, I like that, can I get a little bit more of that? And others say, well, it was great to sit in, but next time can I join a sales meeting or whatever type. But we give them the opportunity that they can explore things around their own role. And we want to be very open and transparent. Yes, you can always sit in if you want. There are no secrets, but also we want you to learn about this. So my biggest compliment would be if those engineers or the salespeople in their next role would like to set up their own startup company. And that would be the biggest compliment. So I'm telling them, and we all do that, and say, okay, listen, if there are certain things you want to learn around managing a startup or doing funding rounds or doing the sales cycles or preparing whatever the admin work or the presentation, let us know, and there's space, and continuously keep on asking that and trying to get them involved and get them a little bit out of their own comfort zone in a positive way, of course.
Brilliant.
I think that the key words are information, communication, and above all, culture of change. It is important to invest on that to ensure a good integration of the evolutions of the market of payments, and also the integration of new technologies and new ways of work. It has a strong impact in the different individuals in the company.
Thank you. André?
Nothing to add. You exactly.
Well, you call a mic drop moment. It's
mic drop moments.
Said.
I have a funny story about that. Our company was getting a new CEO last year, and he was presenting to the company in a German-wide Teams session. And the last thing he says was that, guys, I will send you my mobile number in the chat, and whenever you want, you can call me and I will answer. And that's trust, which is representing our company in that case. And I like to work for these companies because we have a clear vision, and I got the feeling, or I have the feeling, that everybody of my 349 colleagues agrees this vision, and we all work on this vision. And our CEO, once a month, we have the company-wide session where each department has exactly 3 minutes to give the new challenges and new targets. And in that, he's always saying, if you have something, call me. If you have something, talk to your VP. If you have something, call the CFO, the CEO, whatever. Everybody in this company is open to talk.
And modeling the behavior from the very top of the organization, which is so critical.
And in the end of the day, we should not forget, the guy who is sending the CV is looking for a job. The company is looking for an employer.
Yeah. No, very good. Thank you. Right. We're going to do a couple of questions just because they've been asked, and thank you for staying with us and listening to what the panel have had to say, and I hope you found it interesting. So questions are here, guys, in front of us. Does anybody want to pick an answer? Question one: when would be the time of introducing new positions to already established team and reevaluate responsibilities? Is there a good time to do that? Is there a moment to do that? Is it just every day, that's what happens within the team?
Well, then maybe I can kick off with it, but of course, again, we're a startup, so we're constantly looking for better ways to improve the team. So you're growing, you start with a few companies, we're a few people, we're now with 70 people, and in that travel from growing there and also with the international expansion, there is no stable factor as a team that exists in the same form for a long time. So for me, it's relatively easy to answer. We constantly add new functions, including new structures to different teams, and then we grow a little bit and then we reform it again. But again, we're a small company, so I think it's a more interesting challenge for you, because for you have like teams that have been there for many months, years, probably in a similar structure, and if you don't want to make changes, then people are getting
it could be
confused.
Difficult,
Yeah, I mean, we continue to grow. I think we've increased our employees considerably the past few years, but I think it's the best circumstances is where you've demonstrated an expansion of remit, and that's given a great opportunity to bring on new folks to support the growth in the activity. So it's the optimal.
André, will you answer question 2 for me? Do you believe Gen Z requires a specific approach in terms of building a cohesive and diverse culture?
I was assuming that you placed this question to me. I don't know why.
Well, I meant Andrea, but you answer it. You're off.
Totally fine. Yes and no. I think it will have an impact to change the daily work because the requirements of the Gen Z are different of the generations before. Definitely, they need to work not 40 hours a week. They don't need to work 5 days a week, and we have to find a middle way how we can deal with that. So in the end of the day, we have a lot of work to do, and we have to do this work. And we can't hire 100 people more than we have as a budget. So in that case, it will have an impact. The requirements are tough at the moment, and I think the Gen Z needs to understand that we have to do some work and not only spending time on a beach. But one way to this way is, from my point of view, and maybe you don't agree this, sorry, is the remote work, definitely. It doesn't count where you sit. When we learn one thing from the pandemic, it doesn't count where you sit as long as you do your work.
Okay.
Yes, I think, if I may, Gen Z is a very interesting sociological trend because in the report that we have done at WPN with Banking Circle, we noticed that Gen Z bring new codes to the ecosystem. They bring also more innovation and creativity in the companies. So it is important, I think, to do a specific approach linked with this generation, but it is important to not forget the traditional generation. That's why culture of change is important.
Thank you. And I'm going to answer the last question as I wrap us up this afternoon. So firstly, we'll thank you in a minute. We'll give you guys a round of applause. But this whole area of building a culture of relationship, building a culture of trust, building a culture of flexibility, transparency and openness is foundational, whether you're the CEO of a small company, whether you manage a team in a large global company and everywhere in between. These aspects are the DNA of a solid, good team and will help you accelerate your team because you get engagement, and acceleration is about engagement. That's a key learning from my earlier career. What I'd like to do is just wrap up very quickly with a few points based on what we've discussed today. So first of all, there is a challenge in remote team management, but let's embrace it because it's very important. It's part of the future. It's in some areas it's an expected norm. So find ways of embracing flexible employee and team management, and that will help you. That bit about trust and openness and transparency is also very foundational. Recognition, which we've talked about, again, sometimes we just don't institutionalize recognition within our organizations. That is so important, to take the time as a people manager, as a leader, to say thank you, to recognize people, to reward people. It doesn't necessarily need to be financial. There are many other aspects to that. And then to a couple of points that were raised there, get a sense of community going, that this is not just a workplace, it's a group that enjoys being together, that learns from each other, and so on. So just a few takeaways for you. Before I close, and we thank the panel, we have a roundtable this evening. We've got topical roundtables kicking off later on today. They're on the agenda. There is one that's all about career advice, career progression. Today we're going to do one on accelerating your career. Tomorrow we're going to be doing one on the what next. So if you're interested in that, please do come along and join us a little later on. But otherwise, I want to thank you for being part of the event and coming along and sticking with us. It is really very much appreciated. Keep an eye out for people in payments. We're going to continue that with MPE, and please put your hands together and thank this wonderful panel and everything that they've contributed to this afternoon.